welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this sort of different video that I'm doing today. It's in regards to Formula 1 safety. In a way, it's in relation to the recent events that's happened over the Formula 1 weekend, where Antoine Hubert died tragically in a crash. Now, obviously, if, let's say, aren't comfortable with listening to this video sort of thing, then that's fine. Please just sort of switch off or watch something else. But if you're willing to listen and to hear me out what I have to say in regards to the safety of Formula 1 and Formula 2, of course, then obviously stay tuned. Now, first of all, I want to start this video off on a positive note, and in a way, like, obviously talk about the cars of today. Now, the cars of today are the safest cars we've ever seen in Formula 1 motorsport history. There's no doubt in my mind, there's no questions about it, that these machineries that you're looking at here, these beautiful different cars that are pioneered to perfection, are literally the safest, probably vehicles even you and I could get in, like, you know. And there's been so many improvements over the years. Obviously, you've got the lower noses, which means you get less T-bone collisions, or if you do get a T-bone collision, you're not likely to get your or you're not likely to get the other driver's front wing in your face, sort of thing, and you're less likely to see the cars lift off as well. You've got the halo, of course, something that was introduced for 2018 to prevent like debris coming into the cockpit, or to reduce the amount of the chance of it happening. Obviously, you've got wheel tethers as well. You've got so much as well going on. And, you know, there's so many different features that you've got on this car. You've got, obviously, the triangle crash structure, which was obviously brought in, I think, back in 1970s, if I'm correct, where that was to, you know, if a car landed on its sort of roof, then obviously the car wouldn't, or the driver head would be slightly also once again protected as well. And there is so much that, you know, has been done to not just improve, you know, the car's safeties. If we go back to like the 1972, you can just see, like, that's what they used to drive, these cars here, and you can already tell that, you know, these cars were so much more or the dangers were so much more exposed, and yeah, you know, obviously they got safer and safer, as you can see, down the years, and we're probably now at the safest cars in Formula 1's history, and the same has to be said for F2. Again, same features more or less on an F2 car. You've got the wheel tethers, you've got the halo, you've got the, I'm not actually too sure what that middle bit is called, where that little triangle bit at the top is. It's not the engine cap, but it's to do something else, you know, to make sure that if the car goes on top, the driver's head will be sort of protected. But yeah, you got so many different features. My point is, okay, that these cars are so much safer than the 1972 cars. And what happened on Saturday evening was a once in a blue moon. Make no mistake about it, okay, that the incident that happened in the Formula 2 feature race was something that is in a way unheard of, like, to a degree. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking away the fact, I'm not telling, you know, everyone to do nothing, I'm not telling the FIA to do absolutely nothing at all, because You know, it shouldn't happen. Like, you know, these drivers shouldn't have to, you know, potentially go out there and risk their lives. But also, it is the sport they love. As I say once again, these are the safest cars possibly a driver could drive. I know they may, or you may be thinking, but how can I make such a bold statement when a driver's just died in a collision in one of these cars? But the thing is, okay, yes, a driver passed away, Anton Hubert, but at the end of the day, you know, 20 years ago, these type of cars would have been a whole lot worse to drive. And even 30 years ago, they would have been a whole lot more dangerous to drive. So these cars are a lot safer. So is it the track, obviously, then, that we need to change? Well, in a way, yes. Now, in a way, I'm going to sort of animate what happened, sort of thing. I'm going to sort of give you a slow-mo to analyse sort of what happened. Now, I'm not going to say the drivers' names, okay, because I don't know most of them, but I'll just show you what happened. So, obviously, Anton Hubert was following another car. I'll just pretend like I'm Anton, okay, for a moment. Anton Hubert was following another car. Now, further up the road, a car, not too sure who it was, but went off at the top of Radion, or in Radion. Anton was following another car, like 2 cars behind, and going up the hill. He couldn't really see what happened, and as you can see, his view would have been exactly this when he was at the top of the hill, or going over the hill. You know, it would have been very much just the sky. You can't see the racetrack. You're just praying the circuit, the track, will appear when you get to the top of a Rouge, okay, which it usually does. So when he got to the top of a Rouge, he could just see, so he had to take late avoiding action, and as a result, he ended up in this barrier here, more or less. Then, okay, after that initial impact, he was just a passenger spinning across the circuit, and Juan Man Carrera obviously came along on like a direct collision course, whilst Anton Hubert was sort of sliding sideways, and Anton Hubert ended up in this barrier here. I believe his car splitted in two, and all that was remaining, I think, was one front wheel, half of the car, and Anton's final resting position of the car was somewhere around here, just before you sort of get to this DRS zone. So that's what happened. Now, was there any way to prevent it? Well, I don't really want to say there was or there wasn't, because, you know, I think that would be very unfair. But is there any other solutions to prevent a similar collision from happening next time? First of all, let's have a look whether or not, okay, a Rouge, is it too dangerous? Is Spa dated? Or does Spa need to become maybe a reformed circuit? What improvements to Spa Francorchamps should be taken, in my opinion? Well, you see, this is a difficult one. First of all, okay, let's have a look whether or not that barrier could be pushed any more further back. And the simple answer to that is no, not really, because this barrier is actually the furthest it could probably go really back, okay, because if you push it any more further back, you're reducing the amount of tyres you could have, but not only that, you're also reducing, or there's a sudden drop here, so therefore you can't really put this any further back than it already is, this Armcode barrier, okay. Now, the next question is, should there be, or should this corner be refined? Back in the day, like, I think it was the early 2000s, we did actually see the drivers take a sort of a different corner around here. Yes, it was a Rouge, but what the drivers used to do, they used to come into here, they sort of broke into here, then sort of did a chicane, and then went up the hill, like so, as you can see. So, obviously, it slowed Rouge far more down As you can see though, that sort of takes away the excitement of the corner as well, at the same time. So let's talk about was there any way to prevent or to sort of help reduce? Now you could obviously add a, maybe a sort of different type of crash structure here at the top of a Radeon, of course, or in this part of a Radeon. Also you could add a gravel track, but bringing all them into its own as well brings its own affiliated risks. Let's talk about where Anton actually crashed. Could you add anything here really? Well, I think, you could always keep this runoff, but actually really here, do you actually need this part of the circuit, this actual pit lane exit? Do you actually need this pit lane exit? Why not turn this into a gravel track? And it would have reduced the impact initially into the barrier. If, let's say, Anton did actually obviously come a bit out or get a bounce, it would also, in a way, in essence, also reduce, in my opinion, the amount of, how much spin he would have got as well. Whilst I think runoffs are great, and I think they are good, but when you lose a car on a runoff, there's no real stopping it, and the car, in my opinion, doesn't slow down enough. Now, when it comes to safety of Formula 1 or any track in Pacific, okay, obviously the FIA are looking for the best overall solution. They're looking for the best solution, in terms of what type of barrier should they use, what type of, wall should they use, how many tyre rows should they have when it comes to the Armco barriers, how high should the fencing be, for this type of fencing here, the net cap fencing. How big should the runoff area be? How big can you make that runoff area? They're looking at all these different types of questions. Also, they're looking at, should it be gravel? Should it be runoff area? Should it be maybe something like we see in France? Now, France actually could be also a very good solution actually to this. Talking about France, obviously, as we know, with France, okay, you have these lines which are more or less, you could argue, a sandpaper, and what they do, they reduce the car speed very much significantly to reduce the impact. As I say, what could be done to improve safety, especially of the track? And I think this is where we need to focus. I don't think necessarily the focus should be on the cars all that too much, because let's be fair to obviously the manufacturers and to the car designers, these cars are the safest and the safest they'll ever be and been. What can be done to obviously, make Spa safer? I honestly don't know, but as you can see, if it was gravel, that I think would be better at the top of a Rouge, personally. As they say, obviously gravel does bring its own risks, I appreciate that, but I think gravel, would make a little bit more sense, because if you have a look, gravel, does reduce, and I know I shouldn't be crashing in a video like this, but I just want to show you, right, obviously, if you have a look at the speed, okay, different, so this is the time when we're on the runoff. We've now lifted off, by the way. As you can see, we're still doing 32, okay, and look how quick the speed actually comes down. We've already dropped 10 kilometers, and we're not even in the barrier yet, or 10 miles per hour, so we've already reduced. Then the bounce back, as you can see, the gravel the barrier obviously stops me, obviously, already dropping 10, already 0, now we're sort of bouncing back. As you can see, we're sort of now reversing in a way backwards, but the gravel slows you significantly down. Even when you're trying to drive our gravel, as you can see, it creates wheel spin, and in my opinion, I think gravel runoffs or gravel tracks would be a whole lot safer, or something to, you know, just maybe slow the car down. And I think that is what needs to be done for next time, because especially at these high speed corners like this one here, I know, you know, gravel does bring its own sort of issue as well, but as I say, I think gravel would be a safer of all alternatives, especially in higher speed corners. Like, not a massive gravel track. Like, I think runoff should be like the first sort of bit. So like here should be gravel, and then here should be runoff. Then obviously the next bit is gravel. What don't make sense here? You got gravel here, yet this corner's probably actually better than the next corner. Actually, like obviously, you know, as I say, I think it should be runoff first. Then if let's say the runoff don't stop you, then you go into the gravel, and I think that'd be a whole lot safer than other things. Now, in terms of obviously car improvements, I think, you know, there is a whole lot more that can be done to improve the safety of the cars. And I think, you know, the Formula 1, FIA, Formula 2 shouldn't stop working on that. But in terms of the areas where I think we could improve the safety of tracks, I think this is where that needs to be looked at. Like, yes, okay, it's great that we have all these barriers and all of that, you know, but I think the cars need to be a bit more safer. And I think the tracks need to equally be ramped up, and the safety of them also needs to be ramped up. I don't think there is, as I say, one solution. There's a whole lot of solutions that could help, that could prevent. And I'm not going to say, you know, what could have saved Anton Hubert's life, because we just don't know. And I don't want to say I know the answer, because I honestly don't. But what could prevent a similar accident from happening next time? Or similar accidents happening not just at this circuit, but also other circuits we may go to with very fast corners. You know, that needs to be looked into for next time. Because, you know, we don't want to see a repeat accident. We don't want to see a repeat tragedy of other drivers. We want to see all the drivers racing, you know, racing the safest cars on the safest 21 tracks, giving us the 21 best bits of entertainment. And that is what I think all us fans can unite on. And, you know, I hope the FIA, if they do listen to this video, which I have my doubts, but let's say, for heaven's sake, they do listen to this video, the FIA, then, you know, obviously, I'm pretty sure they can agree that, you know, it's not about necessarily what could have saved Anton Hubert's life, but I think, you know, what we need to look at is what can prevent a similar or the same accident happening next time. And the thing is, I think one thing and one illusion we shouldn't get drawn into: no one accident or no two accidents are ever the same. Every accident that happens is completely different. Let's say, okay, that accident on Saturday happened just in a tiny fragment different. The result could have been also a tiny fragment different. And, you know, that's the truth of reality. You know, any accident that happens, every single detail has to be analysed. And you'll never come across the exact same carbon copy of the exact same accident. Yes, we can simulate. Yes, we can do computer simulations of exactly what happened, but none of them computer sims will tell us what exactly happened. You know, obviously you got to put in the steering angle, you got to put in every little last detail to get the same accident. And that's why, you know, Formula 1 needs to, you know, not necessarily look at what could have saved Anton Hubert's life. Yes, I think it would have been good to know what could have been the difference, a key thing. But also, they need to look at what can be done for next time. And I'm pretty sure also that what Anton Hubert would want. He would want his friends, his family, his colleagues, you know, who race these cars, he would want them to drive safer cars. And the next time they go out on circuit, he would want to know all 20 of them Formula 2 drivers, all 20 of them Formula 1 drivers returned from the start of the race to the end of the race and to the pit lane into Parc Fermé, all safe, all well, all in good shape, and none of them sustain any life-changing, lifelong injuries. And I'm pretty sure that is what Anton Hubert would want, and yeah, I hope that is what Anton Hubert would want. But yeah, so I know obviously, again, you know, if you agree with some of them opinions, if you have any comments, you know, let me know down in the comment section, because, you know, let's be honest, I don't have all the answers. I'm only putting out suggestions. Maybe some of my suggestions could be wrong, but I want to now send a message to some of those also, quickly. A bit like Jeremy Clarkson, particularly. Jeremy Clarkson, a few weeks ago, was saying dangerous driving should be rewarded. Well, Jeremy Clarkson, this is why dangerous driving shouldn't be awarded. Because, you know, it could become a very, very dangerous sport. We don't want to return to the 70s or to the early 60s. We don't want to return to the days where deaths were a daily occurrence or a racing occurrence. We don't want deaths to become the norm once again. And I say that not just to Jeremy Clarkson, who made that video as well a few weeks ago, but to anyone who actually thinks these drivers do what they do is just driving around in circles. No, it isn't driving around in circles. They are driving around 44 laps, putting their lives on the line. And what for? That is a great question. What for? To be the best in the world, and to be the most talented, successful, and most endured drivers in the world. And that is what they go out there for. But not only that, they do it because it's the sport they love. Just like how maybe you like football, that's why they do it. They do it equally because they share that passion. I share the passion of motor racing and motorsport, and so do them drivers. All 20, all 21 of those drivers share the same passion, that they want to go out, they want to put on a show because they love doing what they do. And, you know, I'm pretty sure even though Anton Hubert's gone, he would want them 20 or, you know, 18 remaining drivers, his colleagues, as I say, his rivals, to go out there and, again, just do what they love. He wouldn't want them, I'm pretty sure, to, you know, necessarily be too upset. Yes, okay, we will mourn, and it is a time for mourning right now still, but I think, you know, there has to come a time now where we actually move on. Formula One's got to move on from the tragedy of Anton Hubert. We've got to praise his success, we've got to sing his glory, we've got to shine his light, but it's now time to move on and look at what can be done to prevent another tragedy of Formula 1, another tragedy of Formula 2 for next time and for future seasons and even races this year, in terms of how we can improve track safety and car safety and driver safety. That is what's got to be looked at for now, the future. Thank you for watching. See you all next time for another video. I'm your host Julian, over and out.